The snow fell gently on the King's Road that morning. Cold winds whispered through the trees as Lord Eddard Stark of Winterfell rode in quiet contemplation. The young direwolf Pups had just been discovered by his children, a rare and symbolic find, 6 pups for 6 children. Robb had Grey Wind, fierce and loyal. Jon had Ghost, pale and silent. Arya, Sansa, Bran, Rickon, they each cradled a piece of the North's ancient magic in their arms. Ned had watched them with a sense of wonder, but also unease. Direwolves hadn't been seen this far south of the Wall in centuries. Their return was no accident. He believed that deep in his bones. But what he hadn't told anyone, not even Maester Luwin, was that there had been a 7th pup. It was smaller, quieter. Not weak, just ... different. Its fur was dark gray with streaks of silver, and its eyes were a haunting blue. It hadn't cried, hadn't whimpered. It simply looked at Ned, stared into him, and in that silent gaze, Ned felt the weight of something old, something watching. He had ordered Theon to leave it behind, but when they had returned to Winterfell, the creature had followed. No tracks in the snow, no sounds of pursuit, yet there it was. At the gates of the castle the next morning, sitting silently beneath the godswood tree, Catelyn was wary, calling it unnatural. But Ned could not bring himself to send the pup away. In truth, the wolf had chosen him. He named it Duskclaw. The name came to him in a dream-soft word spoken by his brother Benjen's voice. He walks in the dusk, but his claw bears light. At first, Duskclaw was a shadow, silent, always watching. Unlike the other direwolves who wrestled and played, Duskclaw seemed to understand Ned's mood. When Ned was brooding in the crypts, Duskclaw followed, his paws never echoing on the stone. When Ned visited the godswood, the wolf lay beside the heart tree as if it belonged there. It did not howl, it did not growl, but it was always near. Maester Luwin, though skeptical, admitted the creature exhibited an intelligence beyond what was natural. Ned didn't press further. He had no time for speculation or mysticism. The realm was changing. Robert Baratheon had arrived at Winterfell, dragging with him a kingdom's worth of political turmoil. The hand of the king had died, and now Robert wanted Ned to take his place. Ned hesitated for many reasons. His loyalty to the North, his mistrust of court politics, his promise to Lyanna, but something else began pulling at him. Duskclaw. That night, before giving Robert his answer, Ned dreamed of the Tower of Joy again. But this time, he was not alone. The tower stood tall, the wind howled through the broken stones, and Arthur Dayne was there again, the sword of the morning with his blade drawn. But beside Ned stood a direwolf, large and imposing. Not Grey Wind, not Ghost. This one shimmered with the same strange silver-gray coat, Duskclaw. As Arthur struck, the wolf lunged. Not at the sword, but at the dream itself, tearing through it like parchment. Ned awoke sweating, breath shallow, Duskclaw curled at his side. The direwolf looked up at him with those icy eyes, unblinking. That morning, Ned agreed to go south. The journey to King's Landing was long. Ned took a small host, his daughters, and his direwolf. Many scoffed. The Lannisters made veiled jokes. Queen Cersei whispered poison about wolves trying to act like lions. But Duskclaw kept to the shadows of the Red Keep, always quiet, always present. When Ned read the old letters from Jon Arryn, when he pored over tomes in the Tower Library, the wolf lay at his feet. When Ned met with Varys or Littlefinger, Duskclaw was still and silent, but his eyes followed every word, every lie. It wasn't long before Ned began to suspect that the wolf was more than a companion. In the dungeons, when Ned confronted Sir Hugh's strange death and questioned the truth about Jon Arryn's illness, Duskclaw growled for the first time, not at the guards, not at the shadows, at the mention of Lannister gold. The direwolf began appearing in Ned's dreams more frequently, but these were not normal dreams. They were memories, fragments of his youth, scenes he had long buried. But in each one, Duskclaw was there, as if the wolf had always been part of his life and only now revealed himself in full. Ned began to feel as if the wolf was not just showing him visions, but protecting his mind from something darker. Then came the day Arya vanished from the Red Keep. Sansa was weeping, Catelyn had returned to Winterfell, and Ned was on edge. He searched the castle high and low. No one had seen Arya. That night, Duskclaw slipped away. Ned followed. Through the winding passages of the keep, beneath the dragon skulls and the crypts, past the kitchens and the black cells. And there, in the rat-infested tunnels near the river, Ned found Arya, dirty but unharmed, holding her practice sword Needle. "Father," she whispered. "Someone was following me." Ned nodded. He believed her. The girl's instincts were sharp, her wolf blood strong. But what chilled him was what he saw in the shadows behind her. A figure hooded, silent, disappearing into the dark. Duskclaw growled, and the figure froze, then vanished. Arya saw nothing. Ned said nothing. He knew them. The wolf was no ordinary animal. He didn't need a master to tell him that anymore. This creature was bound to something beyond the wall, beyond Winterfell, perhaps even beyond the gods themselves. But its loyalty to him and to his blood was absolute. Ned Stark sat in the cold silence of the Red Keep stone walls, haunted by the choices he had made and the truths he had uncovered. King's Landing had always been a place of secrets, a place where smiles masked daggers, but now it felt like a storm waiting to explode. Duskclaw, ever silent and watchful, remained his shadow in those final days. When Jon Arryn's final letter was found hidden in Grandmaster Pycelle's chambers, thanks only to Duskclaw's keen nose, it confirmed the truth Ned feared. The seed is strong. The Baratheon children were not truly Baratheons. It was a deception born of lust and ambition, and now Ned carried the burden of that knowledge like a sword against his neck. He tried to act. He warned Cersei Lannister and gave her a chance to flee with her children. But mercy in a place like this was not wisdom. It was a wound waiting to be exploited. Robert's death, conveniently timed and shrouded in conspiracy, left Ned vulnerable. As he tried to secure the throne for Stannis, the rightful heir Littlefinger betrayed him. The Gold Cloaks turned on him. And when Sir Ilan Payne raised his sword to strike him down, Duskclaw lunged without hesitation. The Direwolf tore through the throne room like winter's wrath, ripping into the guards with a fury no man could stop. For a moment, chaos reigned, but the Lannisters responded swiftly. The wolf was subdued with nets and spears, dragged off in chains, snarling and biting even as blood poured from his side. Ned, wounded and betrayed, was thrown into the black cells beneath the Red Keep. But even there, in the silence of the dungeon, he could feel Duskclaw's presence. At night, he dreamed of the godswood and the wolf pacing in circles beneath the weirwood tree, eyes glowing with cold fire, as if waiting. Above ground, rumors began to swirl. Arya had vanished. Sansa was trapped in the Red Keep, terrified and powerless. The North was growing restless, and Varys' silent spider of secrets came with whispers of mercy. "Confess," he said, "and they'll send you to the wall. You'll live. Your daughters will live." Ned didn't care for survival, but he cared for his children. So he agreed. For Arya, for Sansa, not for pride, not for honor, but for blood. On the morning of his execution, the crowd gathered in the square like wolves to a kill. The Sept of Baelor loomed overhead. Sansa wept. Joffrey grinned from the Iron Throne, seated like a boy playing with fire. Cersei looked on with cold detachment. Ned was brought out in chains, bruised, beaten. A broken man pretending to be a traitor for the sake of his children. He confessed. He said the lies they wanted to hear. And for a moment, he believed mercy might still live in the hearts of kings. But Joffrey's voice shattered that illusion. "Bring me his head," the boy king barked, and the crowd gasped. Even Cersei was caught off guard. Sansa screamed. The executioner raised the sword, and then it happened. A howl cut through the square like lightning splitting the sky. A single, ancient, bone-deep cry of defiance. Duskclaw. The direwolf leapt from the shadows, a blur of silver and gray, his wounds healed, his rage focused. He struck like a ghost. The executioner never saw him coming. Sir Ilan was knocked to the ground, his blade scattering across the stones. Chaos erupted. Guards drew their weapons. Spectators screamed. In the chaos, a small figure slipped through the panicked crowd. Arya. Needle in her hand. Nymeria at her side, she moved like a shadow trained by fear and survival. She had followed Duskclaw from the darkness. She had waited for this moment. Nearby, Sir Barristan Selmy, disillusioned by the crown he had served, seized Sansa's wrist and whispered, "Come, girl, no more of this." In the chaos, they vanished down a servant's passage, but Ned stood frozen, not in fear, but in awe. Duskclaw was no longer just a direwolf, he was a force. A symbol of everything the North had been denied. The gods had not forgotten the old ways. And this was their vengeance. Varys appeared at Ned's side amid the panic. "We don't have long," he whispered. "If you want to live, run." And so they did. Varys, Ned, Arya, and Duskclaw escaped through the hidden tunnels beneath the Red Keep, the same ones used by kings and spies. They fled the city in the dead of night, hidden in a smuggler's boat bound for the Fingers. Behind them, King's Landing burned with confusion. The Crown declared Ned Stark dead, that Arya had been lost, that Sansa was to marry Joffrey to calm the storm. But the truth was far more dangerous. Somewhere across the narrow sea, or perhaps hidden in the icy north, a different tale was being told. Of a man who walked with a direwolf of silver and ice. Of a girl with a sword and a shadow in her eyes. Of a beast that defied a king and tore the veil off the lie that ruled Westeros. The North remembered. And so did Duskclaw. For in his silent eyes there was more than loyalty. There was purpose. He had not only saved Ned, he had changed the course of history. The Lannisters believed they had won. But winter was not finished. And neither was the Wolf.